Have you ever really stopped to think about what an image is made of? I mean, really? We see a face, a landscape, whatever, but what if I told you that, just like a sound wave, every single image has a hidden language, a secret code made of frequencies? Well, today we're going to decode that language, and we're going to see how understanding it is leading to a revolution in holographic technology. It's going to be cool.
So here's our game plan. We're going to take a journey from a surprisingly simple idea about light all the way to a technology that could totally change how we see the world. We'll start with a light's hidden language, see how a simple lens can act like a supercomputer, and wrap up with the future of holograms. Let's dive in. It all kicks off with this strange but really powerful connection. You'd probably never think that an audio amplifier and a camera lens have much in common, right? But it turns out, mathematically, they basically speak the exact same language. And that shared language is all about frequency. For sound, we talk about temporal frequency. The pitch, how many cycles per second. A high note is a high frequency. A low note is a low frequency. Simple enough? Well, an image has something similar, but instead it's called spatial frequency, which is really just the rate of change in brightness over a certain distance. So think of it like this. A rich, complex sound is just a mix of different pitches. A rich, complex image is just a mix of different levels of detail. Okay, so if an image is made of these spatial frequencies, what does that actually look like? To get a handle on that, we need to break an image down into its most basic, fundamental building blocks. So spatial frequency is really just a measure of detail. The low frequencies? Those are the big, blurry shapes, like the soft, gentle fade of a sunset in the sky. And the high frequencies? Those are all the sharp, tiny details, the individual threads in a piece of fabric or the crisp edges of letters on a page. And this right here, this is what a single, pure spatial frequency looks like. It's just a simple, repeating sine wave of light and dark. You can think of it as the visual equivalent of a pure, perfect musical tone coming from a tuning fork. It's one of the fundamental building blocks of everything we see. And just like a whole symphony is made up of countless pure tones all playing together, any complex image, like this photograph, can be mathematically broken down into a sum of all these simple little sine wave patterns. Every edge, every texture, every single gradient, it's all just a combination of these fundamental spatial frequencies. So you might be wondering, why can we even do this? How is this possible? Well, this whole incredibly powerful approach works because optical systems have this key property called linearity. Now, in simple terms, all that means is that the response to a bunch of inputs combined is just the sum of the responses to each input individually. The whole is literally the sum of its parts, and that's what lets us break things down and put them back together again. All right, now for the part that is truly mind-bending. This whole mathematical idea of breaking an image down into its frequencies, it isn't just a theory we use on a computer. It's something that nature does all by itself, using nothing more than a simple piece of glass. There's this foundational text, Introduction to Fourier Optics, by Joseph Goodman, and in it, he points to one of the most incredible facts in all of optics. He starts by saying, one of the most remarkable and useful properties of a converging lens is its inherent ability to perform a two-dimensional Fourier transform. That's the fancy name for breaking an image down into all its individual spatial frequencies. What this means is that a simple glass lens is actually a tiny passive computer that does this incredibly complex math instantly at the speed of light. No power required, it's just what it does. And here's how it works. When organized, what we call coherent, light passes through an image. A lens can sort that light. But instead of just forming another picture, it creates something amazing at its focal plane, a physical map of the image's frequencies. Right there in the center, you get the low frequencies, the big, blurry stuff. And as you move out from the center, you find the higher and higher frequencies, all the sharpest, tiniest details. The lens is literally, physically deconstructing the image for us. This incredible property of lenses and light leads us straight into one of the most famous applications of these ideas. How in the world do you record all the information in a wave of light? This is the core question behind holography. Okay, so here's the fundamental problem. Any camera sensor you can think of, from old school film to the one in your phone, can only record one thing: intensity. How bright is the light? That's it. But a light wave also has something called phase, which you can kind of think of as the shape of the wavefront itself, where its peaks and troughs are. And that phase information is what gives an image its true sense of depth. So how do you record something your camera can't even see? So in 1948, a physicist named Dennis Gabor had this moment of pure genius. He thought, what if you could translate that invisible phase information into a pattern of light and dark that film can record? The trick was to take the complex light wave bouncing off an object and mix it with a simple, clean, predictable reference wave. Where those two waves meet and interfere, they create this incredibly tiny, detailed pattern. And that pattern is the hologram. It's a frozen record of the object's light wave. Then, to bring it back to life, you just shine that same reference wave back through it, and poof, the original 3D wavefront just pops back into existence. So that foundational idea was absolutely brilliant, but for decades, holograms have been really complex and expensive to display. Now, a modern innovation is finally making this tech practical, all by sending light through the edge. For decades, showing off holograms has been amazing, but also a huge pain. Curators at major museums have talked about how costly and complicated it is. You need these bulky lighting rigs, you need a ton of space, and each piece requires this painstaking, time-consuming fine-tuning. It's basically kept holography out of most galleries, and definitely out of our homes. But this diagram shows the incredibly elegant solution. This is a prototype of an edge-lit hologram display developed at MIT. Just look at it. Notice what's missing? There's no big external lamp, no complicated rig. Everything, the hologram, the mount, and the light source, is built into one sleek, self-contained unit. The concept, developed by Sabrina Berner for her master's thesis, is brilliant in its simplicity. You just mount the hologram on a thick slab of glass or plexiglass. Then, instead of shining a light at the hologram from the outside, you shine a tiny light into the edge of the slab. The light travels up through the glass and illuminates the hologram from within, at the absolute perfect angle. It's that simple. So, what does this all mean for the future of display? Let's bring it all together and see why thinking about light and its hidden language really matters. Well, the advantages here are just massive. The display is compact and it's portable. You literally just plug it into a wall outlet. There's no external equipment needed, no special room set up, nothing. The hologram itself almost seems to be self-luminous, like you're looking through a magical glowing window. And maybe most importantly, because the components are way simpler, it becomes financially accessible for independent artists and smaller galleries. It's opening up this incredible medium to so many more creators. So we've come full circle, right? From understanding an image as just a collection of frequencies, to realizing a simple lens can physically sort them, to capturing a full 3D wavefront, and now, finally, displaying it in a simple, compact box. We've basically learned to read and write in the hidden language of light. The only question left is what amazing new stories and masterpieces are we going to create with it?